Good morning, Sully. How are you doing today?
Hey, we're a little behind schedule, but I wanted to get that interview in with Coach Snyder. That was a really cool interview.
He handled that extremely well. You know, he was ready for all curveballs, and and didn't duck any questions. So that and then McGarry gets his time, so we're good. Everything is good.
Did you like that final question to Coach Snyder?
That was a good one. I generally maintain my composure on the sideline. You know, there was a time.
I didn't know if you went into dad mode. You know,
there was a time in the youth ranks. You got to go back a while where I made sure people understood kind of where I was coming from. But I'm very much composed nowadays. So
I think your dog might say differently. He's calling you out right now.
My dog right now is freaking out because there's two massive dogs walking across the street. So I'm just gonna go into another room. So we're good. We're good.
Kevin, real quick before we get into some football, really interesting season. Your son obviously is one of the members of Washington Township boys soccer team, and talk about that squad a little bit and kind of what I mentioned to Coach Snyder is it really was a great learning opportunity for these young boys to kind of face adversity and face it head on and tackle it. And you don't always get that in a high school season, and it was really cool to see that team rise above the challenges they faced.
Yeah, in that particular program, they've gone to the South Jersey Group they've won the South Jersey Group for a final now 4 of the last 5 seasons. And the last 2 years, last 3 years for that matter, this team very rarely lost games, and they were that good. And they had their moments where they played beat teams by a lot, and then they had close games. But this group of kids hadn't really tasted defeat like they went through this season during that 7-game stretch. And at that point, like Coach said, these are high school kids, and it's a golden opportunity to turn on somebody, to be in all honesty, but they showed resiliency in that they maintained themselves as a team. They didn't get on each other's case. And when they did, it was in a positive way, in a constructive way. And obviously they turned things around at the perfect time. And, to make the run that they did, like Coach, I think I told you last week, I don't think we really thought this was going to happen this year, given the youth and the relative inexperience at the varsity level that a lot of these kids had. But they really dug down. They played hard. They played scrappy. A lot of these kids took a literal beating game in and game out, ankles and just bruises constantly. And, next thing you know, we're in penalty kicks in a state semifinal going to going one win away from going to a championship. So, obviously it was a great experience for all the kids. And I think personally, Shane Snyder's best coaching season probably in these past 5 years.
Talk with Kevin Minnick of the Courier-Post. Kevin, talk a little bit about that, not only as a father, but as a sports reporter. I mean, we obviously love what we do. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing something different. But to see something like that happen where you see kids mature right in front of your eyes, that's got to be great, not only as a parent, but as a sports reporter. It turns into a great story. But also as a dad, I mean, that's a great teaching moment for your son to say, hey, you were up against it. You didn't quit. You didn't quit on your teammates. That's going to serve you going down the line in your life.
Yeah, I think a lot of times with high school kids these days and just teenagers in general, but they may not see that now. And it may take until they are in that situation as adults to realize, what they've gone through and what they actually did learn from that experience. Right now it's too fresh. They're kids. They got a million other things they want to do. They're not really thinking that way, but down the line when those kids become parents and their kids start to participate in youth sports, it doesn't matter what sport it may be, I think that's the point in time where they will then learn and understand where we were coming from as their parents when they were growing up playing the sport. So, obviously a lot of lessons to be learned and a lot of experiences and moments to cherish that I think will only become stronger in their minds as they get older, and then, once they become parents themselves.
And we're kind of seeing the same thing with the Holy Spirit football team, kind of that aha moment that, wait, if we rely on each other, there's a lot we could do together. And that's really the lesson in high school sports. And it's great to see that really comes to light in the high school football playoffs, where you might have a great player, but if you don't have every guy on that sideline contributing in some way, you're just not going to advance.
Yeah, absolutely. On the very, very rare occasion will one player put his team on his shoulders and carry him to a championship. You've got to compete as one, and whether that's 11 on a soccer field, 11 on a football field, 9 on a baseball field, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to get where you ultimately want to get unless you can work together as a team. You've got to put any differences you may have aside. You have to work together, and obviously, when you reach this level, as we are in football playoffs right now, when you've reached the final game and you can't go any further, obviously you've done this as a team, and you've been able to work together, take what the coaches have been able to give you, and blend it in and mix it up and come out with the perfect recipe. Follow that, and then get your chance to play for a title. Obviously, when the championships run around, only one team is going to walk off the field with a loss in their last game. But to get to this point, to get to a championship game, that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to win, obviously, because we keep score and we compete and we put in all the time and effort. But to get to the championship, there's often a lot of rocks in the road that you kind of have to avoid, and it's very, very seldom is it smooth sailing. So, I think, when you get to a championship, you really appreciate what you've been able to do, not only as an individual working hard, but when all those individuals come together and work as one.
Kevin, let's talk about some of these matchups. We got some outstanding matchups in the sectional finals. You're talking about Group 5, Toms River North against Millville. Group 4, Lenape and Timber Creek. Group 3, Wall Township and Delsey. We're still waiting on somebody to play West Defford. In Group 2, Willingboro versus Cedar Creek today. And in that other non-public, we've got St. Joe looking to try to get into that final against Holy Spirit. They're going to play Mater Dei today. So really, it's come down to, it's going to be a great championship weekend.
Yeah, when it gets to the championship weekend, it's what everyone points to all season. They all want to get to that final game, like we said, and I think for the most part, these matchups that we're going to see are kind of the way we maybe thought they were going to, pan themselves out. The teams that we thought were going to rise to the top, the contenders, took care of business, and some had it easier than others. But ultimately, I think when these final matchups are all set, you're going to see the teams that I think we thought were going to be there are going to be there.
Kevin, talk briefly about Lenape. What do they have to do to beat Timber Creek? We've talked all season about Devin Leary and the kind of offensive unit that the Chargers have. What's Lenape got to do to stay in this game and have a chance to win it in the fourth quarter?
That's $1 million question. I like I've said all season long, I thought Timber Creek had the potential to run the table, and they faced some adversity last night in the third quarter where they found themselves behind, and 2 consecutive scores by Shawnee after a 9-0 deficit at halftime, and Shawnee's up 14-9, and all momentum is on their side and all, but that's when I saw the best quarterback in South Jersey rise to the occasion, and Devin Leary had no panic whatsoever. He took his team and he drove them down the field. And then he did it 3 more times. And it was like no big deal. And the kid kept his poise. The kid put the ball on the money. They ran the ball effectively when they needed to run the ball. So, you go into this final with Lenape and Timber Creek, and I think clearly the Timber Creek is the favorite, even though Lenape's the number 1 seed. I think Timber Creek is clearly the favorite, and Lenape's going to have to create. They're going to have to create some turnovers, and they're going to have to not allow Timber Creek to generate momentum and continue to step on the gas. they've got to stop Timber Creek. They've got to create stops. They've got to force them to punt, and they've got to get a turnover at some point that's going to put them ahead, and then the defense is just going to have to absolutely shut down that attack like no other team has all season. I mean, that's just the way it is this year with Timber Creek. They are that explosive. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter and won that game last night 38-14. And it was 14-9 with 6:36 left in the third. So Lenape's going to, Timmy McEnany will work those kids for the next 2 weeks, and he'll have them prepared. But I just don't know if you can prepare enough for what Timber Creek has to offer.
Kevin, how much fun is it watching that kid play quarterback? You don't see that very often in high school. You see a lot of great running backs, but in the quarterback position, for a kid who can really command the offense and seemingly do whatever he wants on a football field as a high school quarterback, that's got to be so much fun to watch. I saw him a little bit last year in the playoff game against Mainland, and you even saw then as a sophomore, I believe he was last year. Man, this kid's got something.
Yeah, you could see it coming. He came into high school with some pretty good resume, and got his chance a little bit early. Played a couple games here and there, and then last year you could really start to see it. And then the thing with him is over the summertime, he really went to work. And the thing with Devin is he's a very, very humble kid, extremely humble. And last night he threw an interception into a Shawnee lineman, and he had to drag him down at about the 4 or 5 yard line, and the kid probably had 100 pounds on him. And in talking to him after the game, he knew he made a mistake, but he didn't labor on it. He didn't drop his head. His team kind of rallied around him, and he went back out there. He said, "Okay, mistakes happen. It's what you do when you face adversity." And the kid just responded like nothing else. His pinpoint passes. He threw for 332 yards and 4 touchdowns, and it should have been over 405 touchdowns because he threaded the needle on a pass right down the middle of the field that a kid dropped.
Wow.
I mean, it could have been more. It could have been tackle on 7 more. But people ask me all. You've asked me, and other people have asked me. Who's the best high school player I've ever seen, and I will firmly stick right now with Kevin Harvey at Paulsboro. But when I'm looking at a pure quarterback. And Devin doesn't really run the ball all that much. He will when he needs to, and on a few plays designed for him on a QB draw or things like that, he'll pick up 6-7 yards. But as a pocket passer, as someone who can survey the field and zip that ball and put it where it needs to be when the receiver turns around, he's the best quarterback I've ever seen. And I've seen quite a few. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, so. There's been some good ones come through South Jersey, and Shawnee coach Timmy Gushu rolled off a handful of names last night and put Devin Leary right in with them. So the kid is something special. He truly is something special, and he's got another year of high school left, and he's going to get even better. That's
the scary part. He's got a whole other year left.
Yeah, he's already he's about 6'2", 185, and I think by the time he decides on college, he could be 6'3", 6'4", 215, and then get to college and become an even bigger kid and stronger kid. So I think, like I've said in the past, I think one day he plays on a Sunday afternoon.
Wow. Kev, real quick before we let you go, give us some cool Thanksgiving tradition games. What's kind of at the top of your list?
Obviously, you throw in Millville and Vineland. And that game's going to be huge this year. We'll see what Dennis Thomas does, with his players this year. He doesn't have a lot of depth on that football team, so I'm guessing, those Millville kids are going to play. And then the oldest rivalry in South Jersey, I believe, is Salem and Woodstown. Been going on for well over 100 years. Haddonfield, Haddon Heights, well over 100 years. And there's other ones down, along the line. But those are 3 of the more traditional games that have been around for a long, long time.
What's your favorite dish on Thanksgiving?
My favorite dish on Thanksgiving.
Favorite side dish, I guess. Obviously, everyone loves the turkey, but what's your go-to side dish?
My wife's mom makes a very, very good stuffing, I'm not big on the onions. I kind of work my way around them a little bit, but that might be the side that's pretty good.
Nice work there, getting a little plug for the mother-in-law. Good job out of you. You're going to have a nice Thanksgiving.
She lives with me half the time anyway, so we're good with that.
Good stuff, Kevin. Appreciate it as always. We'll catch up with you next week, buddy.
All right. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good weekend, man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Taking notes there, Cole, for when you get married. Always plug the mother-in-law whenever you get a chance. Give her a good shout-out. Stuffing, huh? What's your go-to side dish?